Tonight, the workshop is about creating a frame of flowers around a space, and then you can fill that space in with words, or you can put a photograph in there, whatever it is that you want to do. So, I'm going to show you the one that I did. And these are some irises and some, I don't know what this flower is called right here, but they look like little dangling hearts. And I just think they are so pretty. So I have printed off some pictures to show you from my favorite reference website, which is Pixabay. And so I'll be showing you some photos that I got from Pixabay, both the vector, which are drawings, as well as photographs that you can pull from Pixabay. And I use those to come up with an idea for what to put around here. And then where I'm going to show you how I prepare with a dip pen, but you can also, if you're not comfortable with a dip pen or you don't have a dip pen with ink, then you could also use, well, let me see, I have one here, a brush pen. So a lot of people have either a brush pen like this came already filled with ink, or you can use an empty one. Oops, nope, that's one that also already came with ink. I have lots of these, but you can take just a regular water brush and put ink in it and then use that for this technique as well. So we're going to be having some fun with that this afternoon. For some of this writing that I did in here, so wait, for the artwork itself, I'm using a 9 by 12 watercolor paper. So this is one of my favorite watercolor pads here, the Canson XL watercolor paper, because it's nice and thick. It's 140 pounds thick, and it works perfectly for this type of thing. Um, Now, in addition to that, I use a little bit smoother paper to practice. Uh-oh. See there? So, especially when you're using a dip pen, you've got to get warmed up. Oh, thank you. Aliens on Cows over on YouTube said that's wicked pretty. Thank you very much. But when you're going to use a dip pen, or even when you're doing brush pen writing, you need to do a little bit of practice ahead of time. So, this is a notepad that I use. It's mixed media paper, but it's smoother than the watercolor paper. And I find a mixed media pad is excellent. Usually they're smoother than your watercolor papers. So I find they're better for me to practice my calligraphy on before I go on to my final art. Now, I have two books that I referred to get ideas for this workshop. So, besides going to Pixabay and getting pictures, I first had to come up with a concept, right? So, this book is called DIY Watercolor Flowers. What a cute book. Let's see who the author is. Merrick Boudon. Okay, Merrick Boudin. And I will have a link to these books and to the supplies that we use during the workshop in the description of the video on YouTube later tonight. But DIY Watercolor Flowers. I love this book, especially if you're more of a beginner. Now, it works if you're an advanced artist as well. You can get great concepts out of it. But if you're a beginner, I find that this author just, you see how fun and carefree and easy their watercolors are. It kind of gives you permission to not try to create an exact replica of a flower, but rather just have fun and get basic shapes down. And that's what I love about this book, DIY Watercolor Flowers. Here is a project, and you see how she was creating sort of a frame, right? And then put, in her case, she was putting leaves around the outside. And I thought, oh my gosh, that is so pretty. Simple, right? Nothing, too overbearing or fancy. Simple, fun. And what I liked is that after she was done, then you see what she did? So you can either print something out or you can just handwrite it right inside there. So she put a little saying in there, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's Valentine's Day. And I love those flowers that have the little hanging hearts uh, the little flowers are actually hanging hearts. And so I thought, ooh, maybe we can do that same concept, but do it with flowers. And I mean, this book is full of flowers, so you could certainly use this book to do the whole project that I'm going to show you. But I just took it a little bit further and found my own flowers on Pixabay. And that's what these pictures are in the back of the book here. These are photos from Pixabay. I'll put a link on Pixabay, and then in the description of the video tomorrow, you can just click on it and it'll take you to flowers on Pixabay. So you see how these have a heart, kind of a heart shape to them, and they're in these little they have little stems with lots of them on there. I was like, those are so stinking cute. Here's a close up of what one of them looks like, right? So to me, they're similar to a fuchsia flower, but just a little more. They have the heart shape instead of the fuchsia is more like a ballerina skirt, right? So there they are. They're just so stinking cute. And then I said, well, irises. I love irises, and so here are some images of irises. Bleeding heart, is that what they're called? Yeah, that sounds right. That sounds right. Bleeding heart. Fantastic. Thanks so much for that. And then on Pixabay, besides photographs, because these are what? Photographs, right? Besides photographs, they also have something called vector. Oh, thanks for sharing. I appreciate it over on Whatnot. And so vector drawings, well, vector indicates drawings as opposed to photographs. So I also not only selected photographs on Pixabay, I selected the vectors as well. So for instance, here's a vector off of Pixabay. Isn't that fun? Very pretty. What I like about the vectors is if you, as an artist, are going to go in and maybe you prefer to draw before doing your painting, then I find it very helpful to have access to the vectors on Pixabay as opposed to just the photographs on Pixabay because it shows how another artist outlined and created the shapes, right? That's not the only vector. Let's see, I have a couple of other vectors here. Come on. Here's the another vector right here. So we've got the plumeria tropical flowers and we have some irises, but that are a vector drawing of irises, right? And then the other thing that I did here, there's a frame right there to give you an idea of some filler that you can put in and maybe a color story for yourself. This, which is a little garland, but you see how simple it is? I think it's fabulous. So I love these kind of references. Another thing you can get often when you're looking for vectors is you can get line drawings like this and like this. I think this one goes this way, right? So they can give you just, these are a jumping off point for ideas. There's another one there and another one there. So just to see, like, how do other people draw flowers, just to get a feel for it. And then here's something cute for Valentine's Day that I thought would be another good project, but I settled on doing the frame project instead. But you can see here, these came right off of Pixabay. And I was looking at this one because I wanted to get an idea of a whole bunch of different leaf shapes that maybe to put in around the outside of the frame. So those are the types of reference photos that and vector drawings that I pull off of Pixabay to give me ideas for doing my artwork. So let me just set those aside because we are going to use these. Uh-huh. Another thing is that I have dried flowers here. So I like to, on some of my artworks, I like to embed dried flowers. And so in this set, do you see the dried flowers there? So those are actual pressed flowers and they can give you ideas for shapes as well. See here, the different colors and the shapes. So they're a great reference straight from nature. And this is also pressed leaves and see all the different shapes. So those are the types of things that I like to, well, heck, sometimes I just go outside and grab something out of my yard and bring it in the house and work off of that. But it's nice to have um, handy reference materials, I think, for being able to inform my artwork in particular. Now, another book that I used in conjunction together with the DIY watercolor flowers is this one called Creative Lettering and Beyond. So if you've watched me for a while, you know that I've used this book before, Creative Lettering and Beyond. The author is, okay, it's a Walter Foster book. So it's not telling me, let's see, maybe on the inside. Oh, there are a whole bunch of authors. That's why. But what I pulled from in here was little, you see the little flourishes, all this right here, the little hearts, the little curly cues, especially when you're working with a dip pen. That's why I like using a dip pen to do lettering, is because of the way it facilitates these really cute little curly cues and things on your writing. Let me find, there's another section here. Yes, where they talk about flourishes. So you see the flourishing and there, oh, I just love that. Love, love, love that. And so that's something that I showed you on that other notebook. You want to practice, 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 right? Before you actually put it in that square. Now you might want to put it in the square and say, okay, now I like it. Now I'll paint around it. But I did the opposite. I painted around it first and then I put my lettering on the inside. So whatever you're more comfortable with, I love that book as a way to inspire, right? Hey, flower gazer, welcome in. The paints I'm going to use tonight, I actually introduced last week, and these are the Van Gogh watercolors. So this is their field box. What do they call it? They call it their pocket box. And they're made in the Netherlands. What I like about the Van Gogh is they're an excellent quality paint, but they don't have the really high price tag of a lot of the other professional paints. And so I think that makes them more accessible to a wider range of people, but the paints are excellent and they mix beautifully. Oh, I just love them. So this is what they look like. This is the pocket box of 15. They call it the 12 plus 3. So it gives you a total of 15. Even their pocket box of 12 is still very good. Hey, if you can get more paint for the same money, why not, right? So I will have this special deal where I don't know how long they're going to last, but where they have the 12 plus 3, I'll make sure I put that link in the description of the video. And the cool thing about these paints is they don't just come in these little pans. Actually, there's this set comes with a little travel brush right here. So this breaks apart and then you put it back together, right, to fit inside there for travel. But then when I use it, I put it together like this. Um, and the back end of it has a little scoop on it. And that's what you use if you need to replace one of these. There's a little notch at the top for these pans. Come on, come out of there, come out. So there it is, it pops right out, and then you can replace it. If you want to change the color, you can replace it with a new little pan, right? But if you use up your color, like one of the colors I use a lot is this magenta right here, magenta pink, what they call quinacridone rose. Well, they also sell tubes. So here is the Van Gogh tube of quinacridone rose. So once I use up or get near the bottom of this quinacridone rose, I'll just squeeze it right out of the tube into there and refill it. Easy peasy. So it's nice that you can easily refill. Now, the other cool thing about this set is there's a notch over here, and I'm going to use the back end of this brush to pop that out. And now I've got two areas where I am color mixing. Woohoo! Never have enough room to color mix. So that's what we're going to be using for our flowers tonight, is that range of colors. Plus I have one of my other favorite colors here from them, which is turquoise green. It's called turquoise green. And I have a whole bag of the colors because I can't stand to be without. So if one of those gets finished, then I have the colors to put back in there right away. I like to have my backup, you know. We're also going to need some water. So these are little collapsible Faber-Castell water containers, and I love these because you can put your brush right on that little tulip scallop edge. Fantastic. And then you're going to need some brushes. This is the a Famui brush. I'm finding I'm reaching for this brush a lot. I use a lot of the um, Velvet Touch from Princeton as well. This is one of the Princeton Velvet Touch. Let me see. I think I have another one here too. Oop, not that one. This one. So usually they have this like satiny sort of red handle to them right there. Or they have this plastic handle with a hard back end, which I showed you 2 weeks ago how to use that, the hard end to make scratchy scratchies into your watercolors. But this is what they usually look like. And I love these brushes as well. The Famui, if you're starting out with watercolor, are more, it's a more economical brush. But you know what? I love this one in particular is the size 8. And I'm loving this brush. I'm using this brush a lot. So I like the way it holds water and the way that it deposits the paint onto the surface. You know, you don't have to have the most expensive to have fun and get a good result, right? Just find something. I'm trying things all the time so I can find the thing that's going to work for me. Now, with the dip pen, and this is what a dip pen is. Okay, there are different kinds of dip pens. This is a dip pen where you can change the nib. You can pull the nib out and put a different nib in. But there are also dip pens that look like, ooh, I'm looking here, like this. And that's a bamboo dip pen. And you can see mine are well loved, right? And that's another way to scratch and put your letters and your marks. And then some people like to use a glass dip pen. So all of these, the glass, the bamboo, and the one with the removable nib, these are all considered dip pens. And what you're going to be doing is dipping them into ink. There are tons of different kinds of inks out there, especially for fountain pens. You can find a million different kinds of ink. I like to work with ink that is permanent on my artworks because a lot of times I'm going back over top of it with watercolors or some other kind of marker. And so I don't want the ink to smear, right? And if you get an ink that is not waterproof, it could smear. So this is one of the brands that I've found. It's Rohrer and Klingner, and it's called Sketch Ink. And so this is my favorite dip pen ink. Either this or do I have some? Yes. This is the India or China ink. Okay, this is the other kind of permanent ink that I like to use. There's a company called Bombay that makes a whole series of inks that are what are they called? India, that they call India ink. And those are also permanent and they come in all kinds of different colors. So those are the types of inks because they're permanent that I like to use with a dip pen for this kind of project. Because then what if I want to do some lettering or some flourishes and then go back over top of it with watercolor? Well, if I'm using that kind of an ink, or you can always use a marker too. So we've got the Micron pens by Sakura, and those are definitely my go-to if I just want to use a pen. But I like the kind of marks, the kind of lines that the dip pen gives me. So that's what I used in this project tonight. If you weren't here earlier, oh, let me grab the notebook and show you. If you weren't here earlier, this is what we're talking about here. And so this is doing the flower frame. And I wrote inside here with that very dip pen that I just showed you and that black ink that I just showed you. And then I went back in and I used this is a Faber-Castell sketch marker. You see that light blue color? You can use a light blue or a gray, and then you can go back in and you can drop in a shadow. Do you see the little blue shadow that's in there? It just gives your lettering a little more dimension, I find, if you use a pen, something like that. And so this Faber-Castell, if you look here, it's a brush nib. That's a felt nib top, and it works perfectly for dropping in those shadows. The nice thing about these pens is it's dual end, so if I wanted to make some marks, I've got that fine line on the one end. Let me see if it says, it just says it's a gold Faber sketch marker right there, gold Faber sketch marker. And the thing on here is it shows you you've got a brush end and a fine point end. So you can see it right on the barrel right there. And that helps when you're in the store and you're picking something out, to be sure that you're getting the right thing, right? Okay, so yes, they're the bleeding hearts. Oh my goodness, they're so fun. So fun. And so we're definitely going to paint some bleeding hearts today. Um, Actually, if there's a special request, that what I have is I have the plumeria, I have the bleeding hearts, and I have the irises. And cherry blossoms are easy to do too. So any of those flowers, if you want me to be sure to include them, I'll be happy to do that. So we're going to go over top of the table and get started on the painting portion of the workshop. Um, and we're going to use this 9 by 12. It's a 9 by 12. Hold on, let me get the cover for you again. 9 by 12 watercolor paper. So this is the Canson XL watercolor paper. The other kind of paper that I'm like loving lately is this. Let me get it right here. Come here, you. This one, the Famui watercolor paper block. I like this because, especially if you're new to watercolor, if you use too much water, sometimes the watercolor paper can bow. And if the watercolor paper bows, all your colors kind of run off. So if you are a beginner, I find it can be helpful to use a block. A block is glued. So this side is glued, this side is glued, and this side is glued. And then there's a little thing here that says open, and right here it's not glued. This is glued, this is glued, this is not glued, and that allows you to paint, and all that glue holds the paper down for you so the paper doesn't go crazy on you. Okay. But for what we're doing today, I think this loose Canson XL paper is perfect. And I got myself the ring bound because they were on sale and I got 2 for 1. So it's like, I'll take that deal, right? So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to flip over to a page here. Actually, let me leave it on that. And we'll go over top of the table so we can get started on the process of doing this. Ooh, I'm so excited. There we are. I have to have, when I work, I have 2 containers of water. So it's the same thing. It's the Faber-Castell Click and Go, but I have 2 of them because I need one that is my rinse water and one with clean water, so that before I jump into other colors. Now, this piece that I did, you can see I did it in this orientation, right? I did it horizontally, but in order to show up well on the screen, let me see if this would work horizontally or not. I guess it will fit horizontally. Let me see where we are. Yeah, we can do it horizontal, or otherwise we can do it. You know what? It's more comfortable, I think, to do it vertically like this so that it will fit very nicely on the screen for you. Okay, let's move some of this paint out of the way. Another thing I have right here next to me, this is a one of those renewable kitchen towels, they call them. It's so instead of using a whole bunch of paper towels, you can just use one of these. And because I'm working most of the time with watercolor paint, I can just go wash it out in the sink and bring it back. So this is just damp. And when I'm using my brush, oftentimes I dip into my water and I just want to take that little bit of moisture off. And this is not soaking, it's just damp. So it's perfect for that kind of thing. That way you don't use quite as many paper towels as you're working. So I usually keep that right next to me here so I can do the dippy dippy. All right, let's take the paints and put them right here. Let me make sure you can still see that. Yes. And then this mixing tray, I usually kind of hold in my hand as I'm working. So I will just put that off to the side for the moment. And as we start mixing the colors, let me maybe if I move my ink out of the way because we're not ready for that yet. And I put that there, maybe that'll help. Eee, there we go. You can see that now. Yep. Yay. All righty. I always have a whole table full of goodies. Um, let me see now what I'm going to do with this little brush. What's nice is this brush that comes with the set is actually an excellent detail brush. Do you see the size and the shape of it? It's really good for detail work. So I am going to keep this handy because in the work that I did, which I set off to the side here, I am so funny. I can lose my artwork even though it was, oh, well, the reason I lost it is because it's right underneath here. Um, if you look at the irises, after the irises were dry, I went back with this little brush and did the details of the lines on the irises. So, and I could even use this also for doing lettering. It's just it wouldn't go as long as the dip pen does, but you can use this brush that comes with the set for brush lettering as well. I love that. But right now, I'm going to set it off to the side, right on one of those on one of those water containers, so that it is out of the way. Because what we're going to do is we're going to tape off the section where we don't want the paint to go, right? Some people just freehand and paint and then leave it at that. Um, I like to tape. That's my thing. I like to tape. Thank you. Somebody over on YouTube said, awesome work. Thank you. I appreciate it. So this, I love this tape. I've fallen in love with it. It's the Holbein, what they call the Holbein soft tape, and it is perfect for artwork. What I love about it, as opposed to a regular painter's tape, is that you can see through it. So when I put my lines on my paper, I put it up to the line and I can still see through the line, which is kind of fun. But first, we need to decide what we're going to put here. Are we going to do a strip through the middle? And then that way I can write through the middle and I'll just have top and bottom with flowers and leaves. Or in the case of this one, I did a square. It's a 4 inch by 5 inch I did in the middle there. I think I'll do this. I think I'll do like a section like this. So here, I'm going to take a ruler and let's just use a pencil. Pencil, come on. I only have a million of them here. Okay, so we're going to take that. And this is 12 inches. So where do we want to go? From like 4 to, that's too wide. And that's too narrow. So 4.5. Let's see. 6 is in the middle. Let me just mark the middle right there. So we want to go up 1, 2. Yeah, so it'll be 4 inches. So we'll come up 2 here and 2 here. That strip is too wide. So this is what I'm showing you exactly what I do. So I've got the 6 in the middle. 2 up and down, 2 inches up and down is too wide. So I'm always auditioning like this, holding my ruler there. And so we're going to go 1.5 inches this way and 1.5 inches this way. There we go. I think that's a good strip across there. So that's at 4.5 and 7.5. So let's go a little further here. And we'll go 4.5, 7.5. I'm just making very light lines. I can get rid of the line, the 6. That's why whenever I'm going to have a workshop, I will put out on YouTube in the community tab, I'll put a post, and in the post, most of the time I put what supplies we're going to be using. So in this case, and I also make an event on my website, which is Dietzart, Dietzart. And one of the things I put on this week's list was a pencil, a ruler, and an eraser, so that you can do this because I like to prep this way for my shapes. There we go. So now that gives me a shape in the middle to write something, and then we're going to do flowers up here and flowers and leaves down here that way. So we can put that away now. The I always have these funky marks right here, so we're going to take those little funky marks off. Now, what I discovered is that with the tape, you can put the tape, if you want to draw those lines in later, meaning you want to go over it with a black pen or a colored pen or a brush or something like that, then go over top of the line. If you want to erase the line and not have a line showing, you want to go just below the line. So here with the tape, I'm going to go just below the line. And that's because I want to come in and erase it before I start painting. So here I'm coming just below the line, just a tiny bit below the line. And now I can erase that line before I start painting. But if you wanted to go back with the other one, I didn't do that. I wanted to leave the line so I could go over top of it with a brush, and I would have a guideline there. So let me just do that right there. Let me show you this one. So here I went over top of the line with my tape, and I just did the tape in this area right here so that I could paint all around here and this would stay clean. But I left the line, I let the tape go just over top of the line so that the line would be there and I could go back over top of that with a brush and make that line in there. Okay. But with this one, we're going to do it just a little bit differently. And we're going to go just outside the line. So here, so that I can erase the line before starting. Let's do that right there. I love this tape because if you, like I said, it's slightly translucent, so you can actually see the line underneath it if you're putting it over top of your line, your pencil line. Now I've got a pencil line just above and just below these tape lines. So I'm going to go ahead and erase those right now, which is awesome. Like that. And then I'll come along here and erase these. Nice. Got it. Nope, a little bit more right there. There. Then there'll be no pencil line along there when I go to take the tape off. It'll be a little more clean. Okay, and then I like to fill in the middle. Now the middle, you can use whatever kind of tape you want. I have some regular, lesser expensive blue painter's tape. You know what? Actually, I'm not going to use the blue painter's tape because what I found is that with the blue painter's tape, I was getting rips on my paper. But the beautiful thing about this Holbein soft tape is it doesn't rip my paper. So I do like that. I'm going to overlap the tape a little bit here. And I prefer to cover the whole area. Not everybody does. In the book that I was using, she did not um, cover the whole area, but maybe she just has better brush control than I do. Okay, there's that. And then let's go down the middle here. This is just because I tend to splash when I paint. So I want to cover that whole area myself. There we go. Look at that. There. And then I push it down to be sure that paint's not going to get underneath there. But it's such beautiful tape. They call it soft tape, and it just comes off so nicely on the paper. It's made for watercolor. There we go. I'm going to put that aside and just make sure the whole thing is down. Perfect. So now this area is protected and we can paint here and here, and that's fine. So now we have to decide what we're going to paint. What I like to do is I like to take a more loose approach. So as a matter of fact, let us practice before we actually do it on another pad. So this is the Canson XL watercolor paper, but it's in a pad. You see the glued pad there. So I have lots of these pads. Let me set this one aside. Before we get started, let's just play with a couple of, we have to loosen up, right? And like I said, this was the Famui size 8 round is what we're working with right now. I'm going to get it wet. And let's see. So I'm going to start with one of these. Now, you don't have to get so crazy and put them all, don't do exactly what's in the picture. Um, do something, a little more creative than that. So I'm going to get some green paint. In this set, we have a what's called a sap green. And usually I'm just using whatever's in my palette. And everything just gets mashed in together. It's like, oh, okay, that's a green. Cool. Excellent. Make sure you have plenty of water so that the paint will flow off of your brush. And for this, I'm just going to do a warm up. Okay, so I'm going to start out. They almost look like tomato vine. It's really cool, actually. So the vine just comes out like this. If it's a little bit older, this vine actually looks a little bit red. So I just combined a little bit of magenta in my last one that I did. So you get a little bit darker green and with a little red tint to it in there. Okay. And then, oh, I'm going to take a little bit more of the green. And these flowers have a little, you see that little, there's a little, it's kind of like a little bit of a stem that comes off of them there. And so you just put a couple of stems on there. And this is just a warm up. Okay. So space them apart for yourself. The interesting thing I find with these bleeding hearts is they're not all going to face you. Some of them are going to face you and some of them are going to be on their side like that. Ooh, thanks for the thumbs up over on YouTube. I really appreciate that. So if you'll look at these, some of them are short and they're on their side, and some of them are facing directly at you. Hey, you're the artist. You can do them however you want, right? Now I've got some orange on here. I'm like, these are more red than that. So I'm going to pull some of that orange off of there. And I'm using this little cloth, like I had said, to just get some of the color out of there. You don't have to take it all out. Remember, this is practice. So for practice, it doesn't really matter. Here, let's get some. This color up here is the quinacridone rose, and this color down here is called Madder Lake Deep. So they have this one's a little deeper than the one up at the top, but that's a nice red color, right? And you want plenty of water in there because I always do multiple layers, and so the first layer is usually lots of water. And here we're just going to do the cool thing about these is they just have a beautiful heart shape. Now they also um, when they're ripe like this, they have a little wing on the sides. So they're almost like angel wings, the way they go right there. So this is just a warm up because I'm like, oh, no, it needs to be rounder. There we go. That's no better. If you feel like there's too much paint on there, then I do use a paper towel for that to do a little bit of blotting. So let me get myself a paper towel. And if I felt like there was too much color there, I would just blot a little bit of that up. See, like that. So that's one. I'm constantly referring back to my picture. I'll hold that there for a moment so that if you want to look at it as well, you can see. Sometimes they're foreshortened. That means that they are looking off to the side. So they're not exactly, this one right here is looking off to the side, right? So that's okay. I can still paint it in there. It just has a little bit different shape to it. And then this one, this side goes behind that one right there. And it also has the, so it's either a heart or angel wings is the way they look like to me. There we go. That's another one. So we're just putting in the little bit of the flowers there. Okay, another one. Let's see. The further out they get, the more they look like hearts. And the older they are, meaning the further down the stem they are, the more likely they are to have the two separate wings. Okay, like the angel wings, I call them. So we've got a wing there and a wing there, and then they come up like that. So let me show you. So you have the two separate wings like that. Let's add a little more color in there, a little more depth. And then as they get further along, further out, they look more like a heart. So let me pick up plenty of water, right, as you're starting out. You can always add more later. As they get to the end, we have little hearts. They're so cute. So we'll just, and they'll get progressively smaller also. They'll get progressively smaller as you go out. So there's one there. Here's another one here. You can choose if you want to put more to do fill some in, assuming that they're on the other side. You see how this has some on this side and some on that side, but I'm doing it more as an impression. So I'm not really worried about that. And then at the very end, it just has sort of like a little bud that hasn't opened yet. Okay. And then right down below here with the bleeding heart, the ones that are not open yet have these little dark red, and then the ones that are open have a white. And then, but the interesting thing about the white is you see how it looks like an arrow on the top right here. So what I do, let's start out with the ones that are not open yet, and we'll put a little bit deeper, darker color. So I'm just going to grab a little bit more of that Madder Lake so it's a little more concentrated, right? Doesn't have quite as much water in it. And then I'm just going to bring it down like this. Easy peasy, right? Even on that one on the end has a little dot on it. Let me bring that closer so you can see. Do you see that right there? Okay. This is actually a very easy flower to paint. That's why I was like, oh, this will be a good one. Plus, to me, they're just they are kind of synonymous with Valentine's Day. Whenever I think of Valentine's Day, I'm either thinking of an anthurium flower, which is a tropical flower that kind of has a heart shape as well, or I'm thinking of these bleeding hearts. Okay, for the ones that are open, the ones that are further down the stem, they have that white, the white hanging out with a couple of little dots on the end. So if if I'm on white paper and I want to show white, what I do is I either use gray or I use blue. So here we have a little bit of blue, and what I want is just a tiny little bit of blue, just a hint of blue. So I'm using a lot of water and I'm just getting a hint. I mean, you can get as bold as you want, or you can do a little bit of Payne's gray and white. Like there's already some gray on that white right there. So we have a light blue there, right? And then that's where I bring that in. And I use that as my white. Even with like when you do snow, right? With the snow, the snow's not actually white. It's usually some sort of variation of purple or brown if it's near trees. So you kind of need to think about what's around it. But if you want to get away with, the idea of white, just use a little bit of blue. It'll get you there. Uh, and if you feel like it's too much, remember you have your paper towel. You can always pick a little bit of that up, and then there won't be as much blue there. It'll be more of a hint. It just depends on how much of an impact you want it to have in your final. So there, like this one, I feel like I picked up too much. So I'm going to add just a tiny bit more back on there, back in there so you can actually see it. Okay. And then the interesting thing is these have a little spot on either side here. So let's just put that in there. There you go. So they look kind of like that. All right, so that's just a practice of that one, that flower. Um, these are warm-ups. So you want to do warm-ups before you go on to your final piece, just to get a feel for your shapes. And then your hand will have a muscle memory and you'll already know what it is that you're doing. Aren't those crazy looking? Look at that. Those are nuts up. Okay. They're just so cool. And they're hearts. Eek. Here is the irises. And so the irises are so, you look at it and go, oh, that's so complicated. Actually, if you're doing an impressionistic flower, which is what I like to do, it's so much easier. So we're going to take some of our blues, and remember how I said I'm just going to mix it with what's already on there, right? So I've got some Prussian blue and some cerulean blue, and there was some green in there. It doesn't matter. It's all good as long as I have a blue at the end of the day. Um, so I could even, let's say that I want it to be a little more purple. I'll pick up some of this other color here. Let's get some of the magenta in there and put a little bit more of the Prussian blue in with it. There, now I have a purple, right? It helps to know your color mixing um, theory, because what I did was I had a blue. So in order to get purple, you just add some sort of red to it. In this case, the best red I find to get a nice purple is this quinacridone rose or a magenta color. So that's how we got this nice purple. So let's try it with a purple. And you can be just super loose. So I'm just going to sort of follow along with the shape of that. Let's do, it comes sort of like that. And then, you can always fix it with another layer. So don't be hard on yourself, okay? This is supposed to be fun. There's a nice purple, that side, then this side right here. What I like is this leaves kind of a hole in the middle, which I think is really cool. Even though these two are touching, I would not touch them. I want to leave sort of a bit of air, a little bit of space in between them there. Okay. But it does sort of come over like that, right? It doesn't look like much now, but when you come back later and you add a little bit of shadow, and then you add a little bit of some lines in there for definition, then it starts to come alive. But when you're practicing, and that's why I use sort of a light color with lots of water to start with, because I'm just getting an idea of where I want the basic shape to be. And later I can change that if I want to. So here we've got another, I'm doing this one right here. So it sort of comes down like this. This one's all frilly, frilly. So there's one there. There's actually one in the background over here. Maybe I won't do the background right now. And then there's one that sort of comes out this way, but we're seeing it a little bit from its side. So like that, right? So just very easy, very airy. Like I said, I'm looking more for an impression than I am, I'm not doing photorealism here, okay? Now there's another little one in the back there, but it's going to be dark. So let's add a little bit more of this Crimson Lake to get it a little bit different color. And then I'm going to just sort of put that back in there. So that was that one, and then it just sort of comes out like that. It's easy to just throw in another little color, and then you get some separation there. Okay, this is also pretty because it has a big green area underneath there. So what am I going to do with all this? Let's get some of this is Viridian green, or also phthalo green, it could be called, right there. And I'm going to use a little bit of yellow ochre with it. So there we go, some yellow ochre, very earthy looking. I love the yellow ochre for that. And maybe a little bit of sap green. So I'm constantly mixing my colors all up. So there we go. And that's going to come down underneath here, right? Just like that. Just be okay with your strokes looking very strokey, okay? Things don't have to be like perfect straight lines. I like to do very loose, very loosey goosey. And then this just comes down. Dink. There we go. When I'm doing these and I'm loosening up, I like to work bigger than maybe what I'm going to do when I'm working on my final piece. And that's because I want to take up a whole bunch of space and just relax and really get a feel for the shapes that I'm doing. Okay. So it's okay to go, you may be like, oh my goodness, that's taking up so much space on the page. Yeah, but when I go and I put it on my final artwork, now I'm familiar with the shapes and where I want them to be, um, in the shape of the flower. And now I can just do it smaller. Plus, you can go to a smaller brush also. Sometimes that helps. If you find that you're painting too big, you can be like, oh my gosh, okay, I need to step down in my brush size, one or two sizes, in order to not put so much, not have such a big stroke. Okay, that's another technique for that. The cool thing here, there's a little fuzzy ball in there. So the center of these have a little bit of fuzz. So what I like to do is pick up something. See, I'm changing the color a little bit by adding some Prussian blue to that purple I have on there. And then I like these round brushes because you see the tip there. So I'm just going to sort of create a little fuzz right here with the end. And there you can see the little fuzzy area. You don't have to add that. I just thought, I like that. I like that little fuzzy ball right there. So I want to add it. There we go. Okay. Um, what I when I the reason I pull multiple pictures is I like the color and the shape of this one, but over here you see how this one has a little new one, new sprout coming out. So I love that because then I can just incorporate this sprout over here with this one. So let's get some more of that green going. And actually, I'll use a little bit more of the sap green. Okay. And then we'll come over here and it's like, oh, look, there's a little baby one right there. So right now I'm just doing the base of the baby one. And then I'm going to put some color up here. So now I'm going to take some of that purple again. And if it's not purpley enough, I'll just grab a little bit more blue and a little bit more of the quinacridone rose and make myself a new purple, new little bit of purple. And then here we've got a little bit of frill going. And it just comes down here like this. And The way this one looks, there's a bunch of white in it. So it's up to you whether you leave some of that white there or whether you bring, whether you do the whole thing in color. It's up to you either way. But that gives you the idea that there is a little baby one coming up there. So that's the iris. That's the feel. We're getting the feel for the iris. Now, like I said, this is dry now. So if I want to give it a little more dimension, I can come in with a darker version. So that's a little bit more blue, still a little bit of the magenta, but a little bit more blue so that has a little more darkness to it. And then I want to just drop in my shadows to give it a little more dimension if I want to. And the beautiful thing here is that this is the place to play, isn't it? Is on your page where you're just relaxing and getting a feel for the your subject. So we're putting a couple of little bit of shadow in there. There's a little bit more shadow over on this side, right over here. Just trying to build a little bit of extra dimension into it and seeing if I like it or not. I might not like it. I may be like, you know what? I think it was fine the way it is. I think on when I go on to my artwork, I think I won't go in and put a bunch of shadow on there. There you go. So just this is your permission to play, right? If I were working on my actual artwork, I might be hesitant to do something that I think might ruin what I'd already done, right? Okay. I got those shadows because I was looking at the picture and I was like, huh, okay, there's a little shadow here and a little here and a little over here. So you want to look for where are the brighter spots and where are the shadows. Okay. Now that's the iris. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh, I love doing these. These look like, I believe, plum blossoms. So let's look at, I'm thinking doing them orange instead of doing them red. So let's add some orange in here. Yee, there we go. So we have a nice orange, lots of water though. I want to have lots of water so there's not too much color on my brush. And you see how the leaves are back behind there? So we're going to start with the flowers. We start with the flower and we'll put one here like this, and then we'll do one over here. Don't don't worry about it. Just sort of have fun with it, okay? Doesn't have to look, you can be more careful when you're working on your final piece, okay? So then this is going to come over here like this. And then there's going to be another one that sort of comes out and around here like this. Okay, I was just looking at this one and see how loose it is? You can come in and do your definition later. You just want sort of the shape, the outline of it. Here's another one right here. Ugh. Okay, I need more space for that one. So here is, I usually start up here and then work my way around. So there's that one right there. It comes in like this. This one comes out here, sort of lays over that way. So you see how I'm looking and just like that, getting a feel for it. So oftentimes I will use a reference to just get a feel for what it is that I want to portray, like you just get a feel for it. And then I'm using my own strokes when I don't always use the reference when I am actually creating on my artwork. Okay. Sometimes I do, but often I just do my practice here and then I go to my artwork and I don't have to rely as much on this. Let's do one of the buds. I love the buds here. I think the buds are cute. these little buds. Let's do a little bud up here. So we're just going to do that. We have a little bit here and that. Okay, good, good, good. So we just have a little bud, right? And that's that book that I showed you, the DIY watercolor flowers. Do you see how soft and diffused her flowers are? And that's why I like to recommend this to somebody, especially if you're starting out. You know, I don't do photorealism. I do more loose impressionist, and her style, Marie Boudin on here, is super loose, and I just love that. So it makes it more, to me, it makes it more approachable. You know, somebody looking at this may be, oh, I can't do that. But if you just simplify it and just make it blobs like that, then, then maybe it's more approachable, right? Let's look at the leaves here. And we've got yellow and we have green. So let's grab some yellow and make a super light green where we had some green before by adding a bunch of yellow to it. Okay. And we're just going to I'll put a leaf out here like that. And just, I like to fill it in with the lighter color and then come back with my darker colors. So I'm just getting an idea for placement here. Where am I going to place them? And this is our practice sheet, so it doesn't really matter a whole lot. This is still wet, so I don't want to put a leaf around it because otherwise it could run into it. So I'm going to come over here where this one is already dry, right? A lot of watercolor is just knowing when to uh, work in a particular area because sometimes it's dry and sometimes it's not dry. So let's just put a leaf out here. There we go. And then, so I'm just holding this in my hand, looking at it, getting a feel for where these can go. Now, if I'm wanting this to dry quicker, I can just do my trick with my paper towel. And then that way, that won't run all over the place. And you can see there's a little bit of that yellowy green around it. So we'll just bring some of the yellow green, a little bit of yellow, a little bit of green. We'll just bring that around in there. And there is a leaf behind it. A little more yellow, a little more green, right? You can be a little more precise when you're actually doing your final artwork. Yee. Okay, here. We've got a leaf in behind here. So I'm using a little bit of a different color, right? We always want a little bit of color variation in there. Okay. And then you see how you just drop some darker colors in once you got your lighter colors in. So I'm going to go a little bit darker now. This is a sap green. So I'm just going to go a little bit darker. Yee. We got our sap green going on there. A little bit of sap green over here. And just play with it. Leave a little bit of the edge, leave a little bit of the middle. So you have some variation there. Similar to what we did last week when we did the dragonfly. Okay, so we're beginning to build some of that up. Um, when these are dry, you can go back into them with a little bit more, um, a paint that has a little bit more substance to it, meaning less water and more paint. And that way you can get a little bit more definition in there. Like normally I like to do sort of the area that's where I would think there would be some shadowing, and down in the middle area here, down in the middle here. Maybe a little bit more in the middle there. That way you can start building some dimension on your flowers, right? And you know what? If you don't like it, if it's a little too much, the cool thing is you can just come back in with a little bit of water and fix it. Fix it however you want it. So let's put a little bit more in here, a little bit more in there. It really, this kind of painting, you just be loose and free and carefree, right? Now, if I think this is too dark, I can just take my paper towel and while it's still wet, I can pick up a little bit of that paint and maybe I like that better. I don't know. That's why you practice on here so that you can see where your painting is going. Then there's black, right? It uses black as its the little parts in the middle. And yes, I could use black here. Actually, is this one dry enough? Yeah, maybe I'll just use black on this little detail brush. Now there's no black in this set. There's what's called Payne's gray, which is fine. It's close to black. It's actually a blue, a dark, 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 dark blue, but that's okay. And then this one would have some, so I'm just using a very light touch with this. And that's how you get your, right? That's how you put your center in. And again, you might want to practice like, okay, let me practice some of my strokes here. Let's get some of that dark, that other blue with a little bit of the magenta. So we have a darker, and then maybe I want to practice here and see what kind of lines to work for me in here, right? Because this is the iris. And so maybe you'll get a feel for your hand and how you might want it to go. Let's put some up here like that, right? Because irises are so cool the way they have these really neat ribs in them like that. So I'm just practicing with the little brush. So that is like normally my warm up is going to be a half an hour to an hour before I get started on going to the live piece. I play around like this on, that's why I have so many of these pads of the Canson XL like this, right? Because I go through them because I'm doing some practicing here. Let's see. Ooh, another flower that y'all might like is just doing roses. You don't have to get too crazy when it comes to roses. You can actually they can be super simple. So let me get some magenta on here. Make sure I have plenty of water on my brush. And to do a rose, you sort of, it's just little C's in the center, right? Just like that, little C's. And then as you come out, after you get out of the center, then you're going to start to move your brush like this in order to begin to get um, a little bit of a ripple in the edge there. And so this is just a super simple way to make roses. Okay, not realistic, just a good way to get some paint on the page and feel like have the feel of the flower. There we go. So you're just up and sort of give yourself some ripply edges. There's a lot of paint in there. I'm going to pick some of the paint up. So just something like that. Now, I saw recently also a carnation And I thought it was so cute. I'm like, yeah, those are super easy to do. Again, you need a nice pointed brush, but carnations just have lots of points to them, right? And they kind of have points in various layers. So there's a top layer and then another layer here, and it's just going to end up being like a ball of these little spikes, right? If you want to do a carnation, there's just a little bit comes down here like that, right? So that's easy peasy for a carnation. And then you can, we need a little bit of green for the carnation. The nice thing is a carnation has this little bulb underneath the flower like that. So let's just get a little bit of green going. And you would just make a little bulb right here and then bring it down. And you've got a carnation. It's like easier than you think, right? If what you're doing is just loose, 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 loose. And if you weren't here earlier, I see some new people popped in. We're using the concepts in DIY watercolor flowers to do an artwork. And okay, so I'm gonna just set this off to the side. That's a nice warm up. Got some ideas flowing, some paint going. I see how my colors are mixing. Oftentimes before I go to my actual artwork, like here with this, I might clean a little bit of that up. So it's just, this is how easy it is. Broop. Just put some water in there, little paper towel, and now I'm ready. I have more area to mix other colors in. There we go. Nice. So I'm watching the chat. If there's a particular one of those flowers that you want me to be sure to incorporate, let me know. I want to incorporate the bleeding heart because I just think they are so cool. Oh, the other cool thing about bleeding heart, let me show you one more thing before we go to the actual page we're going to work on. The leaves of bleeding heart, let me show you. They're, you see these little frilly edges to them? If you want to do a simple version of those leaves, they are so easy. So let's just grab some green here. And again, you're going to need the round brush to make it work. And you just, it makes me think of a pawpaw. I don't know if you've seen a pawpaw, it's like that. So it's just little, they're kind of, the leaves are sort of spiky. So there's the beginning of a leaf like that. And you can do little collections of leaves. So there's the one on top there. And then maybe there's another one that sort of points out this way, like that. Okay. And then maybe there's a little baby one that's up here. And then once they're, I usually will go in and grab a little bit more of a darker bit. And while they're still wet, I'll put a little bit here in the back end of it. And that gives it a little extra dimension so that when they dry, they have a really cool look to them and they have that feathery look to them. Super easy to do too. Now these have a branch that comes up to them. And what I noticed is some of the stems to these leaves can have a little bit of a redness to them. So I just mix a little bit of the red in with the green. And that way they have some of the green from the leaves, but they also have some of the red in them. And I found that that is sort of a color theme through these those. So it's nothing fancy, just super simple, easy. Reduce whatever the image is down to the simplest terms. Even the iris, right, is super simple, but look at it. with the little detail lines and things in it and the little fuzz in the middle. I think it looks terrific. Okay, we're gonna set this aside. That was the warm up, right? And we're gonna come back to the page where we taped off the middle. So now we can build some really cool flowers around it. Um, I am just crazy for irises right now, but you know what? I think I will start with some of the carnations because they're just so cute. And I can, when I do this, I can go up here and down here, or I can go up here and up here as well. So I could make my picture be the flat, like maybe it was like a vase of flowers and it's coming all up, but then I'm just going to have this area in the middle. Or I can do sprays coming up here and sprays coming down here so that it looks like it's going in the opposite directions here. It's whichever way you prefer. I actually kind of think I like the idea of doing a vase, and I am into blue vases lately. So let's just sort of do like a basic edge of a vase here, just for giggles. And you see how I can fill in details later. I'm just giving myself the idea here. I'm going to make sure you can see that because I know it's sort of down below there. And this right here. There we go. Just the basics of a vase, right? Nice. It's not even, and it doesn't matter. I can always even it out later, right? There we go. Okay, so I have the beginning of a vase there at the bottom. Ooh, fun. Just to sort of give me a reference point for what it is that I'm doing. Oh my goodness, I keep messing it up by spending more time on it, right? It's like, put your strokes down and go. Okay. So I'm going to treat it as though this is a vase full of flowers here. And I love the little fluffy carnation. And of course, carnations come in pink and they come in um, reds and just all kinds of fun colors, oranges. Um, let's do a, because I want to kind of start with the carnations. Ooh, I wanted a little bit more red. Okay, there we go. So I'm just going to start. Remember, this is taped off, so I don't have to worry about it. Maybe I have a carnation coming over here. And I'm just building the top of it. It's going to go out that way. I'm going to make sure you can see that. And then I'm going to grab a little bit more paint. So the first layer was very wet. And now I'm going to grab a little bit thicker layer. And I'm really going to work the fact that it has that nice tip right on the brush. And maybe I'll get some orange and a little bit of that red. So I've got a deeper color. And I'll just put a little bit of that over here. All right. And then I have to build that base in green, right? Let's grab some of the green here. And it's going to have this little, it's nice that it has that rounded base to it. And then that is just going to come over like that. So I'm just throwing in now right now, because it was very wet, you see how this is sort of becoming a all one. That's okay. I'm just going to pick up some of that and it'll dry faster and then I can put in another layer once it's dry. Let's do um, let's do one of the irises. Oh, the irises are so pretty. Okay, so for the iris, let me get some of the blue right? Let me move that out of the way so it's probably easier for you to see when I'm mixing that way. So I've got some of that Prussian blue. Why don't I add a little bit of ultramarine blue for the heck of it right there, which already has a little purplish look to it. And then a little bit of the magenta. Bam, we got purple. Purple. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. Okay. A lot of times you'll get these sets and they will have a purple in them, which is great. Just be careful with those purples because the purple, the dioxazine purple, usually that comes in a set, can be very, very deep. So you're still going to want to mix it with a little bit of blue and a little bit of magenta anyway, because otherwise it's going to have sort of a very very artificial look to it. And we're going to build one of these up here. Why not? And it had one side coming this way, and then it had a taller one over here, like this. I like when they have a little bit of space in between them. And I'm going to put another one out here. Now, I'm giving the impression that there are different petals by leaving space, white space. You see the white space here and the white space here. Okay, and then of course they have the little frills that come out this way. And it doesn't matter if I'm going over top of the tape, that's the idea. The idea is that we're gonna run right into the tape, okay? And this is nice tape because I've worked with it and then nothing comes underneath it, and I think that's fantastic. Okay. So you'll be able to tell that that is an iris because once I put the little lines in it and everything. Now, sometimes I don't like to have lots of the paint sitting on there, so I will take it off. There's one iris right there. And then I'm going to add a little more magenta so I have a little bit more of a pinky purple. And where do I want to put another one? I want to put another one. Eee, I'll put the top of another one right here. So I'm going to put part of the iris here and another part of it in here. I'm making it up right now. Making it up. It'll look more like an iris when it has the lines on it. So that's part of another iris right there. And I'm going to bring a little bit of green in underneath this one because these irises have that big ball part underneath it, right? Like it has this big blossom part right there. So I'm just going to build that right underneath there. Okay, so that's a couple of irises. This one I want a little bit of a darker hue there. So I'm going to bring in, I just added a little bit more blue so I can get a little bit of a different feel in there. Because sometimes when your paint's dry, they're a lot lighter. Like that one dried much more pink than I expected. Okay, let's do another. Well, I do want to do these bleeding hearts. So we can build other stuff around the bleeding hearts. So let me just I'm using the green that I have up there. Let's add a little bit more and a little bit more of grab a little bit of that red there. Okay. And where do we want the bleeding hearts to go? because they kind of curve like this, right? Because they need the curve in order to have the little hearts. So I'm thinking we want them coming from here, and it's going to come up this way. It's going to go behind there, and then it's going to come off this way, and our little hearts are going to be down here, right? Because that's we need to have room to put the little dangly hearts. And then maybe we have another sprig. Where do we want another one? For right now, we'll go with that one. So I can always expand that and make it longer later. Right now, I'm going to take some more of that, and I want to put the little stems to the hearts. So let's get a little more green going there. There's a stem for a heart there. There's a stem for a heart there. There's a little stem in the because it's toward the back, right? You just want to throw some stems on there. Give yourself an idea of where you want to put them. Okay. Let me bring that up a little bit closer because I'm way down here. Okay. There we go. And now I'm going to put some of those bleeding hearts in. So I want a lot more of the pink. So remember I had orange in here. I'm just throwing the pink in with the orange, and whatever I get, I get. I don't worry about it too much. And I want to be sure there's plenty of water for that first layer. I can always build up more layers later. So a lot more pink, right? So we're going to go like this, and we're going to build. Now the ones that are older, meaning that they're further down, are more like angel wings, right? They're the two halves here, and they come like this. There's the little break in the middle, right? Where you have that little part that sticks down. So that one I'm going to say is like angel wings. This one right here, I'm actually going to angle it a little bit differently. And we're going to do that there. So that's that one. And they can be overlapping. So this one, I'm also going to do with the little V in it, like this. There we go. So now they're starting to overlap. And then as we get further up, we can do them just as hearts. I love when they're just little hearts like that. Little rounder though, right? Little rounder, little rounder. There we go. Thank you, bleeding hearts. It's Mother Nature, right? They're so cute. Okay. I still have plenty of the pink. Let's do this one where it looks like it's a little bit more facing sideways. There we go. That one's facing a little bit sideways. And then we've got one more. So they're going to get successively smaller as they come up here. Like that. But at least they'll be placed. So I'll know their place. And the little bud on the top, right? So we just have the bud on the top. And then I'm going to go a little bit darker. So the one at the bottom is a little bit darker, that Crimson Lake. And that's where on the ones that are closed, we want to have that little bit that sticks out. There we go. And the ones that are open, we want that white part. So we want just a tiny bit of blue. Let's get a tiny bit of blue here. We still have some blue from that purple. Oh, we have that nice blue over here. And we're going to sort of fill that inside and bring it down, and then there we go. So you fill the inside, you bring it down, and then it has another little notch at the bottom. I'll show you in a second here, like that, and a little notch at the bottom. So they look sort of like that for these parts right here. And that's that light blue. If you feel like it's too dark, just take your paper towel and lift up on it a little bit, and that will lift up some of that blue so it looks a little more white. And what I've noticed is on the sides of those at toward the bottom, there's a little knot right there and there. So we're just going to put that in there. Okay. So that's for the bleeding heart. Yay. I want to put a few more of these carnations in here. So this one, I'm going to take some of that pinkish, going to add just a little bit of orange to it to bring it back to a kind of an orange. And now I'm going to put this back in here. And I'm just tapping it with my brush. Okay. Do you see how I'm adding back in some more definition in that area in the middle where everything was too wet? Okay. Oh, bleeding hearts. The bleeding hearts are so cute. But we need another one of these carnations. I'm gonna make it more of a pink carnation. So I'm adding a bunch more pink back in there. Plenty of water to start. And where do I want? I want one. I think I want a pink carnation over here. So I'm just using the tip, I'm pressing it down and lifting it up. See, it's that simple right there. And then I'm grabbing a little more paint so it's a little thicker on there. And I'm going to do it another round right here. Yes, they're going to blend in with one another. That's okay. And then I'm going to take a little bit of the darker color and I'm going to put that near the base and just sort of let the colors come together. Okay, there's another carnation right there. Oh my gosh, they're so easy. Okay, underneath the carnation, we need a little bit of green. So this is the sap green that I'm grabbing right now. And I want to try not to touch that because otherwise I'll end up with the green and the red, which is fine. Don't stress too much, but I'm just bringing the base of that so that I can get, there we go. Yay, so we've got a carnation up there. Of course, we want more carnations, right? What else? I like the pink, but I want it to be much less pink. So I'm actually going to add some white to it. The nice thing about this set, and not all sets have white in them, but I like this set because it does have what they call a Chinese white, and it's not as opaque as a titanium white. So a lot of times you hear titanium white, and titanium white is very opaque, but Chinese white, which is what's in here, is not as opaque. So it is nice to mix it with some of your colors and get that little bit more powdery kind of look to it. So we're going to put one. Where do I want the pink one? I think I'll put the pink one right here. So now the color is going to be just a little more toward the pink side. And now add just a little more pink to that. And come in here with a little bit more. And then a little bit of the lake color. What is it? Not Carmine Lake, but something like that. Okay. And then bring this part right here. All right. Now I notice this is up a little bit high. So I want to bring these out just a little bit more because usually the carnation is it's very rounded and fluffy. Okay, there we go. Nice. And if I feel like it's too much paint, I can gently pull some of it up, let it dry, and I'll be adding more definition in there. Now I'm going to switch to the green. Some people like to put all their pinks and oranges in and then come back and do the greens, but I like to build the each flower individually so I know what's going to go around it. Okay, there we go. And this one right here, I'm going to do that. Just, it's nice when you have a good tip on there of your brush. And then this is going to go underneath here. And then it's going to come down here. And of course, if it were to carry down, it's going to come down here like this into there. Okay, we got it. We got it. This one I need to bring down into the jar as well, right? So it comes this way, and then it's going to go like that, and it should come right from here and go into the jar. It doesn't matter that much if you're going to just throw a bunch of greenery in here later. I just try to do that so that I have a feel for where the flowers are going. It's like, where are they coming from? Where are they going to? Let me, I can see here, and I want to make this just a little bit wider. Oop. Okay, there we go. Now, what else are we going to put over here? I like these irises have a beautiful leaf to them. So let me show you right here. The irises have this long, thin leaf, and I love that. So we'll be able to use that long, thin leaf as filler. Also, this has those funny little paw-like leaves right here. So we can use those for a nice filler as well. Okay, let's put another. We need more fillers, right? We need more leaves. We need more filler. Um, we want to put, what do we want to have? I think I want to have a an iris bud right over here. So let's dip back into that. Add a little bit more blue so we get a little bit darker purple. And the bud was just like this. I'm just adding it light, putting it in light, not too dark. So I can come back because I also need, um, let's bring it sort of around like this. So see how simple it can be? Just a suggestion. And then it's going to have the green around it. So let's grab some more green here. And we want to bring that around. So it's sort of the bud of the iris, and then it can go in there. Right? So the iris bud is just sort of sticking out there. Now it's light, so it's suggesting, and it can be darkened as you go. So just pop your flowers in or your main parts very lightly, even the leaves, and then just come back and add the dark. Of course, um, we want to have another one of these over here somewhere. So let's take another, add a little bit of orange into what we already have. Wow, that orange is overpowering. It is so orange. Okay, so I want to do, where do I want to do it? Up here, maybe? Okay, so I'm going to have part of a carnation up here. And it's okay if the carnation goes behind this other flower, right? That is a-okay. And there's the tape here. So I'm gonna pick this up like this. There we go. So that's the beginning of another carnation right down in there. And the tape is right here, but I'm just gonna stick a tiny bit of green right here so you get the idea that that's what it is. And now these are dry enough for me to come in. You see how when it was wet, it just sort of creates a little ball of color and doesn't really have any definition. So now we can go back in. These are various types of pinks. So I think what I'm going to do here, because I'm going between the orange and the pink a lot, I'm going to take this brown that I had in there mixed. And the nice thing about watercolors, you just get it wet and I can get that color out of there in a sec. And now I can use it for more of my pinks. That way I can keep my oranges and my pinks separate instead of going back and forth from them like that. Okay. Ooh, that's nice and pink. So we're going to come in here and drop another layer on the carnation. There we go. So now we've got another layer going on that carnation right there. This one we made it pink with some of the white in it. So let's get some white in there. And I might take a little bit of that and a little bit more white. Cool. So there's not as much contrast on that. So I'm going to have to add a little bit more of a dark color just to get a little more contrast going there. Otherwise, it's pink on pink and you can't really see it. There you go. Now you've got more contrast. Contrast, right? Okay. I want to put a little bit of this is dry and this is dry. So now I'm going to work back into them, and this is dry. I'm going to work back into them to give a little more depth and dimension. So we want some colors that, even if you go back over top of it with the same color, you're going to get some depth built in there. There we go. So I just took my Prussian blue and my magenta, or I think they call it quinacridone rose, to get my purple going again. And let's see, we want a little bit of darkness in here. And then we want it a little bit dark up in this area right here. So I'm sort of moving my brush, giving it a little bit of a jagged edge there. Usually you can't go wrong with making the areas where it meets here. If you make that a little bit darker, that also helps to give a little more dimension. And over here, just a little bit down in there. It just gives it a little bit of extra zhuzh right there. And just remember when it dries, the drying is going to be a little bit more light, right? When it dries. But just layer, that'll help a lot. Down here, I definitely need it to be darker. Right down in here, right? Because that's where it meets the green. There we go. So we're just building that up. Now, when I flicked it a little bit far, and it went over into I don't know if you can see it right there. It flicked just a little bit far over there. So I'm going to use fresh water, and I have my Willow's blender, or a blender brush from Princeton. So this is a shorty make short, right? A short bristly brush, and it's what I use to pick up those little mistakes. So then I use a clean part of my paper towel and I just pick that up and then it's gone. It left. So this brush is an essential for me in the watercolor studio. Oh my gosh. If I want to make any little tiny corrections, it's perfect. It helps to have good paper. If you don't have good paper, scrubbing on it with a brush like that can create pills on the paper, and that's not always doesn't always make you happy. Okay, and then we'll come up here since we're working on that. Get a little more of the darker going. A little more of that, and let's see. Definitely, oops, too much water, not enough color. So, okay, there we go. So I just want it to be a little bit darker down here where there might be a shadow, right? And there might be a shadow or something right in there. There we go. Just adding that extra little layer. Later, I'll come in with my detail brush and put the lines on the irises so you'll really be able to tell what they are. Now, right now, these what do we call them? Something of tears or whatever. Um, they look a little flat because we put one layer on them, right? And so I'm going to get a little bit more of that pink going and add a little bit of this darker color here, darker red, so that I want this area right where the little stem meets it is kind of red. And then I want sort of right around the V right here to be a little darker red. So I'm just adding a little bit of extra dimension in there too. Right here where it meets the stem, down here at the V, where it's likely to be a little darker, just to add that extra little bit of dimension in there. And then when that dries, if I don't like it, I can just use a little bit of water and sort of blend it all together. There's a lot of put it down and see if you like the effect or not. And if you don't, then just soften it or adjust it a little bit. There we go. Like that. A little bit more here. And right there where it touches that. Okay. So you can see there. Now, as it dries, it's going to get a little bit lighter and it's going to sort of fade into that background. So, and if it looks just too much of a straight line on those edges, just take a clean damp brush and go along the edges and just you can feather those edges with just a little bit of clean water. So right here we've got, this one has the extra that we put on there of the carnation. This one has the extra layers. This one has the extra layers, but this one we were waiting to dry to put extra layers. So let's put some extra orange layers on there. A little bit more orange. Look at that. I'm going to add a little bit of this. What is that color? What do they call matter deep, red matter deep, they call that. So that helps to deepen it a little bit. Okay, so now we're going to come in and we're going to put our extra layer here of carnation fluff. I love how fluffy carnations are. Okay, so I'm just deepening it right there. There we go. Okay. I think I made this a little too wide. I probably should have brought it up one, like a little bit more narrow, but that's okay. We'll just have to keep working to put more stuff around it, right? I have a lot more that I have to put down in this area, right? Uh, One of the things we can do down here is put some of those fluffy some of these fluffy leaves from the bleeding heart. That's what they're called, bleeding heart. I'm going to write it down right now while I'm thinking of it so that bleeding hearts. There we go. So if I have a brain fart and I forget, it's there, right? So what I want to do now is see these beautiful fluffy leaves here and over here. Oh my goodness, we have these beautiful fluffy leaves and fluffy leaves here. So I think what I'm going to start out with is yeah, we'll start. Nope. I want to start out with actually the leaves of the irises, which are more of the long, thin leaves. So let me, we're going to have to do a lot of greens. So let me get this purple out of there, out of here, because I've got the purple in there. And I'm basically going to make this whole thing various types of greens. There we go. Okay. Now let's work on our greens. We need sort of a darker green for the leaves of the irises. So I've got sap green here, which is a good middle green. Let me do this so that you can really see as I'm mixing it. So the sap green is this middle green. You see that? But I want to darken it a little bit. So this is Payne's gray right here. And when I throw the Payne's gray in, you see how I get a more olive kind of consistency in the color? Yeah, that's what I want. That is what I want for the leaves for the irises. So an iris leaf is just your classic sort of leaf that is long and thin. So let me put the tip of this one here and just imagine that I bring it down here and it's going to be a nice wide leaf that's going to come down into there in that color. Beautiful. So it's a little bit darker than any of the others. Okay, then I want another one up here. Let's see. Where do I want another one? I definitely want another one coming out. Why don't we do one that sort of comes out here and along the edge there. I'm going to leave just a little bit of white so you can differentiate. Can you see that okay? Yeah. Because the bud is a little bit lighter color, right? I can come back and add details to these, like little lines on them later. So there is that one there. You know what? I did not put the base to this. I should have put one here. So before we go on for more of those leaves, I need to put the base of that in there. So this is the lighter green that we had earlier. So I've put a little bit of yellow in with it. So I've got the lighter right there. So this one comes down, then it would come in here. I want to get that one in before I go back to the dark ones. There we go. Oh, and also this one would come down in here, right? So let's make it just a little bit lighter. So imagine this one comes down and it's going to come in here. You don't have to do all of these little stems. I do it to give myself a reference point. It's okay as you're putting your filler in to just cover those right up. Okay. It's okay to cover them up. It's just initially I feel better getting them in so that I kind of know where I am. Okay, I'm just adding that dark one. I think the dark one's going to come outside the blue, so I'm going to take some of that blue off of there. This one I'm going to have over top of where I had the edge of that blue. So I'm sort of scrubbing it in there to get the blue to come up. There we go. So it looks like it's right over top of the blue now on the outside. Okay, cool. I likey likey. Let's get some of that dark green again. Eee. And let's put another one of these. I'm actually going to put one that sort of comes down this way. This is the dark green. The nice thing about these iris leaves is they're just so easy to paint because they're just long, thin leaves. I'm going to do that. Make it look like it's turning into there. Yee. This is why I like to have a good tip on my brush right here. So I can really get into these corners like that. So there's a little bit down there. All right, it's beginning to come together. Beginning. Um, I need another one for over here, minimum. I need another one. So let's get the dark green. Now I'm beginning to run out of the dark green. So what color was it? It was the Prussian, nope, not the Prussian blue. It was the sap green. And then I put some of the Payne's gray in with it. Bam, there you go. Dark green right there. Fantastic. That Payne's gray is so good. So good. Okay, so instead of just going straight, do I want it to go straight? I kind of want it to go right in. I want to bring it up here a little bit. Yee. So I kind of want it to come this way, back behind there. So it's sort of, that's the top of it. Let's see. Do I want it to peek out the other side? Maybe it just like peeks out the other side. So that way that is in front of it. There we go. So I'm not going the line here from the bleeding hearts. I'm not going over it. I'm going under it. Okay, so we've got the iris. This is coming down. We've got just a little bit of the green right here behind it because there's a little hole in there. And then it's going to come, we're imagining that it's coming down and it's going to be back behind here. And we'll just sort of fill this area in with it. So yeah, it's back behind here. Nice. There it goes. So now we've got a sort of a reference there. The dark green. Okay, cool. So that goes up to there, right? I'm always looking at angles. Ah, okay. And I want it right up to that line. There we go. So it's back behind this one. Okay, let's see. Let's see. So that's a good smattering of those. I want a little darker over here. So now that it's dry, I can just pick up and add a little more darkness to it. A little darker. These are kind of dry. I can just make them a little bit darker. So layering, you can help to add to that darkness a little bit at a time. There we go. We want that area to be darker and over here. Right? So I like to have multiple like darks and lights within one leaf. Okay, this one, there's a little bit here that needs to come down over the tape. I like when you see it and it just, when you pull that line off of the tape, I love to see that nice crisp line. Okay, so let's put some of the, I'm wondering if that is enough. Is that enough of those? I think that's enough of those. I think we're sort of going to fill a lot of the area with these bleeding heart leaves because they are just so cute. Now you see this little one right here? That's also, that's like sort of a bud for the leaves. right there. We can look at that as well. So let's put one of those, the little leaf buds over here maybe. Ooh, do we want to do that or put it like right here? Let's maybe put it right here. Okay, I'm taking some more of um, the sap green right there, and I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to it, so we get like a lighter green, just a slightly lighter green. Okay, and I'm going to look at that and kind of get a feel for. Again, it's almost like the carnations. It's so cool. So just take advantage of the fact that you have the point, the pointy brush. And if you're not comfortable being very light with your touch with this kind of brush, this would be the time to come in and get the detail brush from whoop, that came in the set. So a little teeny tiny brush like that, and you may be more comfortable. Now I'm making sure that none of this is wet if I'm going to put my hand over it. Otherwise I brace my hand so I'm not touching it, right? Okay, because this is nice because you can really get the get that going with the little brush. There we go. Nice. Now I'm going to grab some of the just straight um, sap green because it's a little darker. And now I'm going to drop that in at the base because they're lighter at the top and darker at the base. So I'm just dropping it into the base of those various little baby leaves. Okay. If you look here, you see that it's lighter up here and darker in the middle, right? Okay. So that's just a little grouping of those. I'm actually going to make it just a tiny bit darker, sort of toward the middle here. I'm going to fill the middle part there and just a little bit more. There we go. Okay. And then we want to go ahead. Ooh, I like what's happening here with the hearts. You see how you have the multiple as it dried where we put in those dark areas. Like I said, if that kind of freaks you out, those lines there, this just has water in it. And I can go in and I can just add a little water around those edges and that'll help soften the edges if I just use a little bit of water, which it may not bother you at all. I just wanted to show you how I go back in if I'm like, ooh, that's just like a little too jagged a line and I want it to blend in a little bit more. Then I just come in with plain water and help it to spread a little bit. There you go. And just let it dry. Let it dry naturally. Okay, let's do some other of the papas, the papa, what I like to call the papas, but they're not. They're the bleeding heart. They're just the things from the bleeding heart. Now, this right now is green, but in one of these, you see this one right here? You see how it's kind of a reddish? It's a little bit reddish. I like that instead of being just green. So I'm going to take just a little bit of the red and I'm going to combine it in just one little area here. So I'm just taking a little bit of the red and combining it with a little bit of the green. And see how you get that sort of brownish almost color? So I'm going to drop that in over top of this green so that you know for sure that that stem belongs to the bleeding heart. And it's not just green. There we go. So it has that little bit of the reddishness to it. Love it. And then what I noticed is in that same picture, the branches that go out to the leaves also have that same um, reddishness to it. So I'm actually going to make some more of that reddish green. Ooh, it needs to be thicker, thicker. Let's make it just a little bit thicker. Let's see, I need a little bit more green here. Yee, a little more green and a little more red. Yikes. Okay, perfect. So that's giving me like a, oops, that was like too much red. Or was it? I don't know. That's kind of cool looking. Little tiny bit more green. So this is what I'm doing when I'm painting all the time. Ugh, that's too brown. Okay, a little bit more red. Yee, a little bit more pink. Wow, that pink, y'all, is so strong. Come on now. Let's get a little bit of this green down here. Okay, good. Now you're talking. All right. So now what I want to do is I want to put in the branches that are going to lead to the leaves for the bleeding heart. So I've got the color for the stem of those. This is actually the same color that's going to go with this down to the branch here. Okay. And then I'm going to want to put some leaves over here. So I'm making sure this is not all wet where I'm going to put my arm, right? And I just need I'm going to need the stem right here. See, if it's too far onto if it goes onto the iris, you just use your paper towel and you pick up a little bit of the color there. Okay, and then it's going to come, so it's going to come down here and come in here. Beautiful. So there's that stem right there. And then we're going to have another stem that comes. They're going to be more leaves, more of those leaves over in this area. So I'm just going to, for now, I'm just going to bring a stem down here like this. Ooh, then bring the stem in here. Okay, like that. So I've got a stem and a stem. Uh, I'll just start. Oh, I want to put a stem like it's coming out over here because I want to put some of these over this way. Okay. And then I think I want to put a stem like right here and put some coming out this way. Cool. So I'm sort of planning where I'm going to put the leaves, and I want the stems just give me an idea where I'm putting my stems. So let me put a little bit more of that stem color on this stem that's coming out with the flowers. Okay, there we go. So now they kind of talk to each other. All right, cool. Now I'm getting the water off. Hey, S. Diedrich, welcome in, welcome in. I see you there. It says hello. We are doing a project. I kind of was thinking along the lines, S. Diedrich, of love and of little sayings and things. And so we've taped off the center area so that we can write something in here. I don't have anything in mind. So if you have anything in mind that you want to write in here, let me know. But I'll show you if you weren't here earlier. This is the concept that we're doing. And this was what I did earlier. And so it's flowers around an area where you can write like that. Or you could make it a 4 by 6 size, and then you could insert a photograph. So it's kind of making a frame around a photograph as well. Okay. That's the concept anyway. um, okay. So now let's do some of these beautiful fluffy leaves here from the bleeding hearts. Let's look at the other picture and see how they're just little fluffy leaves like that. I love the leaves because they're so much fun to paint. It's very similar to the motion of what we did for the carnations, except that it's just green for the leaves. So let's get some more greens going. This is your sap green right here. And I'm going to add a little bit more yellow because usually I layer these leaves. So I start with a lighter color and then I move into a darker color on top. So I'm just, you see my yellow, you see how one yellow is green and one yellow is orange? That's just what happens to me. Thank you, ST Drick said that's cool. Oh, and how would you Oh, Roy says, how would you like me to donate? I don't I think I have super chats set up on YouTube. Thank you for asking. So if you're on YouTube somewhere, there might be I thought I enabled super chats. And so thank you for asking. I really appreciate it. Hopefully there's super chats turned on YouTube. If they're not turned on, let me know if you can't find it. That way I can find out from YouTube how we make the super chats during the show. I appreciate you asking. Thank you. And over on Whatnot, you can tip somebody. So I think that's a lot of fun. I love tipping somebody during a show because it's usually unexpected, and I always love the reaction. Okay, here we go. We're gonna do the leaves, the fluffy leaves for these bleeding hearts. So we have a little stem over here. And the cool thing about these leaves is they're in little clusters. So they're in little clusters of 2 to 4. And so I'm going to go ahead over here and make a little cluster. So similar to what we did for these carnations, I'm just using the top of the brush and making these little fluffy marks. So there's one right there. And then let's put another one coming up here, just like that. So they can be different shapes. It can go back behind this flower right here. So let me do this so it looks like this one is going behind there. And there we go. A little bit of fluff, a little bit of fluff. Long little bits coming out. So just like that, filling up some space. But I'm going to come back and I'm going to add more color, the deeper color like I did here. So this is just the initial layer. Now I can imagine that there is, let's put one, let's see, I've got this coming up here because I want to put some out this way. But I'm going to just stick some back behind here. Now I'm looking at composition. So I'm thinking I want this to be the tallest thing in the composition. Okay. So if that's the case, I want right now to make my leaves so that they're between the height, so that they're taller than this iris and shorter than this carnation right here. Okay, just to sort of maintain some balance in here. And it doesn't matter that I don't have a one of these branches coming up because I can just add one, right? So I'm just sort of making a fluffy bunch here for a leaf, this going in this direction, and then maybe another little one going in this direction, kind of off to the side like that. Okay. All right. This is how you review and say, okay, how can I start filling in some of this space so it doesn't look too white, right? uh, okay, so that was good in that area. Of course, I'm going to have to put some more back in here and back over here. Um, let's see, a little bit of it's going to have to come up here. So let me start building a fluffy leaf that's going to go over this way, right off of there. What else do we have here? I'm going to have a fluffy leaf. I think I'm going to put a fluffy leaf right over top of that stem that's coming down there. So we're going to have a fluffy leaf right here. Now, a little bit of it went on the pink. What kind of tape did you use? Ah, excellent question, S. Diedrich. Love this tape. Thank you for your question. This is the Holbein soft tape. It's called Hol- Holbein soft tape. So if you put down pencil lines, you can see the pencil lines through it. Um, and you can see whatever you've done underneath it if you've already written something or painted something and you want to cover it up and work around it. Oh my gosh, this is amazing, and it truly is soft. I was showing earlier, this is the typical painter's tape, this blue tape. And oh my gosh, I find this painter's tape rips my paper all the time. Even though it's supposed to be really gentle for painting, not so much. So this Holbein here, it's called Inside Nitto tape, Nitto tape. It says on the inside there. But the name of it when I bought it was Holbein soft tape, 3/4 inches by 60 feet. Amazing, amazing tape, phenomenal. You'll see when we pull this off, it is so easy. I just love it. It's definitely one of those finds. Uh, okay, so I've got a leaf going in here, back in behind here, and I'm just going to put it right over top of that uh, that stem that was coming down there. It's fine. It's fine. And I'm going to put a little one. I want one that sort of goes off the page here. So I'm just sort of adding little fluffs, fluffy fluffs. Don't worry if it doesn't look dark enough. I'm going to be adding these. This is the light version, and then I'm going to be adding darker on top of there. So that's filling in that area a little bit. Okay, so of course we need to fill in. There's this little one here. That means there's going to be another one right near there because they kind of come in clusters, right? But I want it to be behind that other one. Okay. So there are those. Let's put some, we have to have some over here. So I'm just using the tip of the brush, creating these little groupings. Okay, almost. Make sure you have plenty of water on your brush. That'll help you get a nice um, light color that we're going to go over again later. Okay, and then I'm going to go in this direction for another one down here. Sort of like that. Okay, that's good. So we've got some, nope, I need to bring this out just a little bit more like this. Okay, cool. Cool, cool, cool. So I'm visually looking to see, how it looks there being filled in. Hey, Mateo, welcome in, welcome in. We're doing an watercolor art class, right? Some of this area down here. I'm going to grab some more of the lemon yellow and the sap green. There we go. And if you want to really have some fun, you add a little bit of the viridian to it, and that just gives it another dimension. Okay, so here we're going to do, it's going to be going off the page here, right? into the, so that when we pulled the tape off, it looks like it was continuing over top of there. Okay, there's that little bunch, and then we're going to put another bunch right over here. Fluffies, fluffies. And then another fluffy right here. So it looks like it's going behind that carnation. All right, for now, that's good. I'm going to put some inside the middle here too, just as to work as a filler, right? We need to have some filler in the middle here. Okay, and then over here, you see I keep moving around. Normally, that's because I'm working right here. Normally, what I do is I turn my page like this so that I don't have to contort, right? When I'm doing that. Okay, so there's some filler. Let's put a little bit down this way. Just, and let's just, I always want to make sure I have plenty of water at this stage because I want the paint to have like a flowy sort of washy look like that right there. Okay, let me move this just a little bit so that I can move this up a little bit for you. There we go. So, because now I'm over here in this area, so I want to be sure you can see that. Wow, I really have to move this off to the side so that you can see that. Yee. There we go. Better, 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 better. So now off of here, I can do maybe two bunches or a bunch that goes back this way, right? Again, I'm using that end of the brush that's nice and pointed. I'm just doing like a little bunch here, and then we'll do a little bunch over here that kind of comes off of the end of this. A little bit more water because it's you want the paint flowing nicely right off of there. Let's do a little bunch that goes back behind this leaf right here. By putting them some in front and some behind, then you get that concept of depth and that perception, right, of depth. Okay, let's see how that's going. These are going to have a darker color put in there, so I'm not too worried about that. This is just the first layer that gives you the light color. That's why I'm going in with the light color to begin with, the yellow and the sap green, um, because I just want to get an idea of where these leaves are going. Let's do a little bit more here. Okay. Well, I'm going to have to put a little bit down here, right? Let's see. Where do I put it? Where do I put it? I'm always looking for balance, 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 right? Ah, okay. Okay. I like the balance of where we're going up here, but I'm like, what are we doing here? And I think I want to put some, I don't want it to be too matchy matchy right here. I just want to put a little bit where it looks like it's sort of back behind here, which means I don't want it to overlap that. Let's just make sure that it like goes back behind there. Okay. Right? Okay. Okay, okay, okay. All right. Well, I don't want to keep you all night, so. Now, when I mix this, this is the stem color for those leaves. So I placed some of the stems, but I knew I was going to need more. So that's why I made sure I mixed plenty and I left it on there. Okay. So we're bringing some more up in here. And that's that leaf. This is this one right here. So I'm sort of connecting, right? I'm doing some connecting here. Same here. This is a stem coming up this way. So I'm going to come off of there like that. Over here, we've got some more. So this one is going to come down this way. This one's going to come this way. I'm going to bring this one across here a little bit, right? So it looks like it sort of comes down and probably will connect with those. We've got these up here that just look like they're connecting with this branch right here, that stem. We've got a few more. Okay, it's getting a little bit dry, so I got to add a little bit of water up here. I'm watching for wetness. I don't want to put my wrist in the wetness. I hate when that happens. Okay, this one comes down this way. This one comes down this way. And they're going to come in here. So then you can see where that little grouping connects up, right? That's what we want to see. We want to see these leaves. We don't want them just floating out in limbo. We want them to connect somehow to a branch. Yep, like that. Let me bring that up closer so you can see. Sometimes when you're dealing with details, it's hard to see from down there, right? So there you go. Oh, and then yeah, a little bit more because that took care of the little bits of leaves that were up here. Now we need to come down here and do some connecting with the branches. This one connecting in there. Okay. This one, there's actually a branch that comes down right there and meets up with it over here. This one just meets up with this branch right here. We've got a one here and then another one that comes out here. And then we've got the end here and we've got just another one that comes out here. Okay, so that's how we sort of build those. We tie those together. Can you see there how we've tied them all together? Okay. So now at least they sort of make sense, right? And then let's go ahead now and I have to just let these dry just a little bit more, I think. No, maybe not. Maybe they're good. All right. Let's do the darker green that's going to go on these little leaves, just like we did here, where we did a light green and then we dropped in a darker green right there. We're going to do the same thing on these the fluffish. So I've got the more of the sap green, but now I'm going to change it a little bit and add some of the viridian. This viridian can also be, it's a PG7, so the color is like your phthalo green. You may have one called phthalo green. It's the same, almost exactly the same as this viridian right here. So this is just a little bit deeper color than that light color. I mixed it right in with the light color. Okay, but it's just a little deeper. And now we're going to go. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to work from left to right so that I don't get my hand in it, right? Top to bottom, left to right. So let's start with these right here. And I'm just dropping in a little bit of that just to give it a little bit more interest, a little more variety there. It just gives us this deep color right in there. And then I'm going to move down here, do the same here. I'm not trying to do the exact same petals or leaves. I'm just trying to add a little bit of dimension and toward the base where it meets up with the stem. Okay, just a little, just for something. Now I have more here, but they're in the center, and there are some up here in the center. Like I said, since I'm right-handed, I'm going to start at the top and then come down here. If I did this one first and then I went like this, I could end up with my wrist in it, right? So I'm just putting some of this little bit deeper color right in here. This is very impressionistic, so don't worry. Don't worry that you have to get it right. You're just putting it somewhere in that area, somewhere near there. So here, let's pick up a little more, somewhere near what would be the base of your leaf and a little bit up into the leaves. Okay, I'll bring it up closer for you here in just a second so you can see what I mean. Let me do this one and this one before I finish it. Let me show you. So you see how it adds just that little bit of extra dimension and depth there to those leaves. All right. Brings a little more attention to them instead of these, which are very plain right now. You're just adding that extra zhuzh, that little extra bit. How do you spell zhuzh? I was wondering that one time. I'm like, okay, I wanted to write it, and I'm like, I have no idea how the heck to write the word zhuzh. Does it start with a J? Is it a Z? What is it? If anybody knows, put it in the chat. Oh my goodness. All right, here we go. A little bit more there, a little bit more here. Okay, cool, 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 cool. There we go. Oh, I'm loving it. These are the last two that I have up here. So the last two little bits. There's this one. These are back behind here. That's why I said you don't have to worry too much about what those leaves look like because you're going to come back in with these other colors and add to them. So it's just a matter of getting an idea of what and where they are, maybe what direction they're facing, and then you're going to come back in later and define them a little bit better. Okay, the very last one I have to turn. Gets to turn because, and now I'm looking because there's wetness and wetness and wetness. I'm going to put my hand on here where the tape is so that I don't get my hands in anything that's wet. There we go. And I'm just bringing this toward the center here. Yee. There we go. All right. Awesome. 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 That's fun. Okay. So I probably would normally take a little more time, put a little more filler in, maybe do some little things like that. But for right now, I just want to get this part taken off. Oh, you know what? Before I take this off, ah, ah, I have to, right? So I have to do the detail on the iris. Let's do the detail using this over here. And I'm going to get the detail brush that came in the set, the Van Gogh 12 plus 3 set of paint. And I need a dark purple. So I have some nice looking blue on here already. And I'm going to grab the Payne's Gray and put that in there. But it's a little too different from what's here. I feel like it's a little too dark blue. So I'm going to add, oh, so careful. This this magenta. What color do they call it? Quin. They call it quin rose. Um, uh, I have to be so careful because it overtakes the color. So I'm just going to do it a tiny bit at a time. I'm trying to turn that blue into a dark violet. There we go. Okay. So that's still kind of a bluey violet. Let's add just a little bit more. Okay, good. That's a nice dark violet, right? You see there? So let me take that. And now this is where we're going to put our little lines in here. And we practiced this earlier. It's okay if the lines are broken. You know, in other words, it doesn't have to be a straight line. It can be a line that is all wobbly and everything. I'm looking to be sure I don't have anything wet, or if I do put my hand down, it's going to be somewhere there. Now, what I like to do with these little lines is I like to kind of give shape, the shape of where that petal is going, right? So this one, for instance, it's coming up this way. So this is, okay, let me bring it up closer so you can see what I'm doing. So I have that detail. You see those little lines in there, the little detail lines in here. And to me, that's like the finishing touch on the irises is those little detail lines. You could do it with a pen if you're more comfortable with a pen. I really like doing it with with this little tiny detail brush from the set. This came from the pocket box from the folks over at Van Gogh. All right, let me bring this one here. So see, I'm sort of giving the direction of the way those petals are going by doing this. Okay. Nice. Ooh, I like it. I like it. Okay. And then over here, we've got this petal goes up like this. There we go. That one. And then over here, we've got this one. And over here, I'm going to bring it up and around. There we go. Doesn't have to be realistic. Okay. This is impressionist. It just gives you an idea. Now, wait a minute. We've got this little guy down here. So I'm going to take that same dark color and I'm just going to sort of create just a little something like that, just to give you an idea of the shape. And it kind of ties them together, right? Oh, okay. This is probably one of those. Um, all right, let's put that little brush away right there. Now I can go ahead and pull this off. Okay. Ooh, drum roll, please. Right? Here we go. So I am going to pull, which way did I put them on? This was the last one that I did. So I'm going to go from the last one that's on top. And I always pull at an angle, a sharp angle like this to make sure that it doesn't tear the paper. You see the angle right there? So I'm pulling at a steep angle. Okay, there's that one. Ooh, nice. I'm going to just move this out of the way so that I don't make a mess with it. Okay, let's put that way over there. Nice. Oh, grab a cup of coffee while I'm at it. Mm, yummy. Okay, so the next ones were these. And steep angle. Fabulous. All right. Now I can pull this one. See why I love this tape? Look at that. Beautiful line. Oh my goodness. Okay, there's this one right here. Steep angle, holding the paper. Fabulous. Fantastic. Love it. And then this last one right here. And what you're going to notice is that there's no pencil line. You see how there's no pencil line here and no pencil line here? That's because when I put the tape on, I put the tape just, I didn't put the tape on the pencil line. Yes, you need the link for that tape. Yes, Flower Gazer, do you follow me on YouTube? I think you do, right? And so tomorrow, okay, yes. Tomorrow the link to the tape will be in the description of the video because total this tape is a total game changer. If you want to do this kind of thing, I mean, wow, it is amazing. No, way better than your white there's the white artist tape and there's also this blue tape. No, 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 no. Get yourself this. It's amazing. Yes. So now we have I when I put the tape on, I put it just inside where the line was. So I did not cover the line, the pencil line. And that way, before I started painting, if you were not here before I started painting, I erased that pencil line. So now when you look, you're like, oh my gosh, there's no pencil line. That is so cool. Right? So then this is the point where, I would decide what it is that I'm going to write in there. I'm going to show you here this one that I did earlier and where I actually earlier I had a square and I had left the pencil line. So what I did was when I taped just over top of the pencil line because I wanted the pencil line there so that I could go back over top of it. This is just the Payne's gray paint on the little tiny detail brush. Okay. And so that I put this over top of the line for this one because I wanted to preserve the line. And because this tape is translucent, I was able to see the line. Okay. Um, Whereas for the one I just did, I didn't want to see the line. I wanted to erase the line. And so it comes out so beautifully clean if you erase the line first and then you do your painting around it. Isn't that amazing? So what I want to show you right now is what I do to practice my lettering. Oops. My lettering and then how I add the shadow. Do you see the shadow that's on there? I'll show you the trick that I use for the shadow. Hee hee hee. Oh my goodness. Okay, so here we go. uh, this is my favorite paper to use for the ah let's make sure this isn't wet. Oh, I'm so happy right now. So happy. That makes me so happy. um so this is my favorite paper to use. Hey, Florida Glass Girl, welcome in, welcome in. Oh my goodness, you just came. Let me show you real quick. Like, this is what we were just doing, and it's a I was showing off this beautiful tape that I found called Holbein soft tape and put that across there and then did a watercolor painting around it. This is the one that I prepared for the workshop here. Let me find it right here, like this. So this is the one that I did to prepare for the workshop. And same thing, I had put tape, this Holbein soft tape inside here and covered this whole area and then painted all of this around and then pulled the tape off and was able to, I used a dip pen to do my drawing inside there. So I'm going to show you sort of the process that I use to use a dip pen. We're not going to put it on there because I don't know what saying I want to put right now. But you can see here what I did on this is the Fabriano mixed media paper. I like mixed media paper to do my my lettering practice on my warm up because it's smooth. So watercolor paper has a slight texture to it. And so this Canson XL that I did this project on does have a slight texture to it, but it's not enough to mess up your dip pen if you're using a dip pen. If you're using something that has a small nib to it, like just a one of these kind of pens right here, like an '05 or an '03, then those bumps can make a difference in your writing on this kind of paper. But when I'm practicing before I go to write on top of one of those papers, I like to do it on a smooth, and mixed media paper is great. You see how it basically is not coming through? There's a little bit right here, but I mean, that was wet. That was very wet coming off of my pen. So the kind of ink that I use for this is well, there are a lot of favorite inks. One of the inks is these, the Sketch ink, it's called, by Rohrer and Klingner. So this color is called Lily, and this is like a dark brown. So I use this one a lot because often I like to use brown instead of black. But, in some instances, I want to use black. So where did I put the black one? Here is nope, that's the brown one. Here it is. So this is, again, the Sketch ink. This is latte. I don't know whether that's latte or lot. This was Lily is the brown, lot is the black. So again, Rohrer and Klinger, but I will have it linked in the description of the video on YouTube. And so I take it out of the bottle and I put it in a small little, what are these? Half ounce? I guess they're 1 ounce. They're little tiny bottles. You can get them screw top or like this, which is the pop top. The pop top's messier, but I happen to have a bunch of the pop tops. So I either use that kind of ink, the Sketch ink, or I use this, which is the India ink. It might say China ink on here. No, it says India ink right there. This is the Pebeo India ink. Love this. And then the other kind that I use is the Bombay India ink, which comes in all different kind of colors. So those are good permanent inks. I was just looking to see if I had a Bombay on my table, but I don't. Um, ooh, here's something interesting. If you're working on a dark paper, this is Diatramentis Document Ink White. So if you want to use a white ink or you want to mix a white ink with one of your other colors to get, something different, this is the best white for your dip pens. Okay. Diatramentis Document Ink White. Um, okay, so let's take, oh, there's a little box right here. So I was practicing all around it before I tried putting something inside the box. And that box is the same shape as was on my here. So I was working to see, okay, what kind of motif, what am I going to put inside this area? And I reserve myself a box on there. So that's another trick, is to, if you have a certain space, to draw your space out on here, and then you can practice on there. All right, so this is the Sketch ink, the black Sketch ink, the Lot color, Lotte. And what I'm going to do is, this always gets messy. Um, and before you start, it's better before you start if you take your Sketch ink and or your ink and you do this, right, to mix it, and then you set it down for a couple of minutes because you don't want any bubbles. It's always such a pain to have bubbles. Okay, so you're rocking it and then you're going to open it. Now, because I have these little push on lids, I always end up getting ink everywhere. Oh, come on, ink. Ta-da! Not too bad. Not too bad. Did I get it all over my fingers? A little bit. Not bad. Not bad. Okay. So the reason that you want this is you want to be able to close your ink bottle. You don't want too much air getting into your ink bottle. And this is the perfect size to fit your dip pen in. So I'm actually holding it to the side so that the ink comes all the way up. And then now it's actually more than filled the reservoir at that point. So now it will write. Oh my gosh. Yes. Fabulous. So these are speedball tips. This tip that's on this pen right here, it's a speedball uh, pen. Let me see if I have one of the regular ones. Okay, normally when you buy the speedball set, you get one that looks like this. It's just plastic. And then these nibs, let me just put this here for a second. These nibs pull out. Yee, can I pull this one out? Yep. So these nibs pull out and you just buy the nibs and then you shove them down inside the ring right there. And that's true of this one as well. It just has this nice little cork at the top. This is a vintage one, but you can find them sometimes. I actually got these off of Whatnot. So yes, you could find people who are selling these on Whatnot and other places that's vintage, and it has this nice cork, so it makes it really comfortable to write with. And I was showing earlier, you can also use a glass dip pen, or you can use one of these bamboo dip pens. Okay, but this is my favorite. I like, for me, I like, let's see what type this is. I think this is a C type, which is flat across the top. It has the number right on it. Yeah, it says C3. This is my favorite one that I like to use. C is the flat top, and then 3 is the width. Okay. And that's my favorite one that I use all the time. So I'm just getting the ink in it, and then you want to practice. You want to practice, practice. I like flourishes. I was showing earlier, if you weren't here, my favorite book for this to use for practice is this one, Creative Lettering and Beyond. And it says inspiring tips, which is so true. But do you see the little flourishes right here? Now, when I'm warming up, I will go through, you see the practice I was doing with different types of pens right there. So they give you good practices. They also give you practice sheets that you can print off. You can make copies and print off on your printer. And I'm looking here to see, it's in here somewhere, I promise. But there are practice sheets. See that? But they have blank ones, so you can print it off and right, um, which is fantastic. But I love the little flourishes. You see the little flourish heart right there? So the flourish heart starts like this. Oh, come on, we got to get the ink to flow. Starts like this, comes up, goes around like this, and then comes around. Fun. And then depending on how what angle you do it at, and that's the blotter. It depends on what angle it's on and how hard you press, whether it's going to give you thin lines or thick lines, right? But this is what I do on this mixed media paper is I just sit there and practice, practice, practice. Let's see here. I love the little flourishes like this, where you go back and forth like that. So these are the types of things that I practice. You want to get your hand going in a certain movement before you actually start to write. So let's do love. So I like to do, so I don't know if you can see that. There's a big old L and then the O, V. So that's the type of thing that they're showing you how to do in here. Do your warm-ups. Then there's a whole page here of flourishes, they call them, right here. See where it says flourishing, how to do your flourishing and all of your little loop-de-doos and stuff. Here's the word love right here with a big old loop-de-doo at the end of the L. Some of my, I get this book and I just sit there and play. See flower, wisteria, and then they start putting little designs on the ends, right? How fun is that? How fun, how fun. Just fabulous. And so that's what I do um, in order to practice to get ready to write on something like that. So let's do, for instance, B. I like to do really long, drawn out letters. So like this, and then you want a smooth paper to do this on, so that your pen just glides along, right? You can do this. Oops. H. Let's see. Like this. H, A. The P can be all fancy. So that you just play with your lettering, you play with your flourishing, you get your whole shoulder into it. That's what I like to do. I like to get my whole shoulder into it. I'm looking to see if anybody says anything there. Let's see, the T for the thank you. Oh, the other thing that's really cool inside here is that they don't just show you those kind of letters, they show you these kind of letters. See where it says pencil hardness? You see the lettering for that? So there's so many different, and they show you brush lettering. Here it's combining drawing with lettering, right? Um, Different block lettering. That's why I love this book, because there's so many different things in here that you can even just regular fun letters like that. So, and depending on how wide your pen is here, like lovely, L-O-V, E, but I'm taking advantage of the pen, L, so something like that, right? So you can just play with your different nib widths in order to get different styles of writing. Now I am going to show you, this should be dry now, right? Yes, dry. Okay. So I'm going to show you what I did in order to create a drop shadow. Um, because in the past, I was always like, how the heck do people get those shadows, right? Oh, this is what I'm doing to clean it. I just rinse it in my water to clean the nib. You want to clean your nibs immediately. If you don't, you're going to ruin your nibs. Um, so I clean it in the water. Now I'm putting it in fresh water like that. And then what I like to do is I like to take another pen. Hold on a second. Here's a good one. So I like to clean underneath here because the ink sits between here. Do you see that? Let me put my hand behind it. Do you see that where it goes apart? So what I do is I put water on another one and I go, or I do this under the sink usually. I do this and then that cleans out that area, and I make sure that way that area in between there doesn't have ink stuck in it. You want to clean that out so that way it'll be ready to use the next time. All right, so let's drop a shadow in here. Oops, before I spill it, let me cover this up right here. Ugh. Okay, I got you covered. Oh, of course, I'm getting ink on me now. It's the taking the lid off and putting it back on. I always end up getting ink on me. Okay. So now I've got let's do these hearts right here. Here is your secret weapon. This is a Faber-Castell Gold Faber sketch marker. And there are other markers as well on the market. What you're looking for is a nice, this is it's not a brush tip, it's a felt tip. You see that felt tip? But it has some nice flexibility to the felt tip, but it also has a nice tip to it. So in order to do the drop shadow, you decide which way the light is coming from. And then if the light, let me draw that with something darker for you. So if the light is coming from here, then your shadow is going to be over here, right? So what I do is I'm going to have a shadow on this side right here. I'm going to start thin and I'm going to bring it kind of thickly along there. And then I'm going to lessen the pressure. And do you see the little shadow it dropped in there? Ah, that is so cool. So this is happens to be light pigeon blue. A lot of times people like to use grays. I personally like the blue. So this light blue, I really like this one. Now, that's just a shadow if this is solid. What a lot of people do is to get more mileage out of it, we are going to assume that it's not solid. And so we're going to put a shadow right here. We're going to put a shadow right here. We're going to put a shadow right here. And then that way, we've got even more of a 3D on there, right? Now I'm seeing a little bit of black, so I don't think it was completely dry. I'm just cleaning the nib out. My understanding is this is a water-based marker, okay? Just so that you know, it is water-based. It is not alcohol-based. But you could probably do the same thing with an alcohol marker, I would imagine. Okay, so now we're going to come down here to the word love, and we're going to do it on the word love. So if the light's coming from over here, then my shadow needs to go in here, right? A little bit there, in here, underneath here, but only to a point. Also inside here, like that. So I'm beginning to build a shadow on it right there. And then the light's coming from here, so it's going to be on this side. It's going to be underneath here. And just as it goes around the corner, it gets thinner because it picks up over here and then it goes thinner right there. And then if the shadow's coming from here, it's going to be underneath, or the light source, I mean. So this goes like this. And then, so the L now has its shadow on it. You see that? And the O, I'm going to start from down here with it really thin and then get a little bit thicker as we come up. All right. So now we've got that shadow on the O. Oops. And then light's coming from here. So it's going to be shadow over here on the O, and then shadow over here on the O. Right? In here, and a little bit underneath here. And then under there, and then picks up on this side over here. So just always think about where is my light source. That's going to inform where your shadow is going to go. Okay. A little bit more up there underneath here for the E. And then it picks up over here. And then it goes inside there. On the loop for the E, we're going to go up here and underneath here. Okay. So always think in your mind, okay, where's the light coming from? Where would the cast shadow be based upon where the light is coming from? So then here we've got a cast shadow there, and we've got a cast shadow here, and then a shadow underneath here. This is part of the flourish, right? So we've got the shadow under the flourish as well. Eee. As well as inside here. And since I'm holding this up, I'm not getting it as well. Then there's going to be a light shadow over here because it's only a light line. Eee. And the same is true here. We'll just bring this up here. So then once you're done, the really cool thing is it just looks like it looks like your lettering is standing up off of the page when you put a nice set of shadows in. Isn't that fun? I just love shadowing. But you want a shadow with a gray or a if what you're using is a red, maybe use an orange or something like that. Or I don't know. It's just so much fun. The other thing about this gold faber is that on the other side there is a detail. So let's say that you want to make something look like it's 3D like this. Yee, like it's block. Yeah, you see the blocking. You can use this detail to do the blocking also. And then maybe I want to put like, and I like the light color, either this light blue or a light gray, because then you can do the initial blocking with that. And if you want to, go back over it with black. Do you see that? So that's for doing more block letters. Um, and when you're practicing at first, you may want to use the little tip here to try it. And then when you're comfortable with how to build it, then use your black. All right. So that is the conclusion of the show. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for stopping in to watch the art portion of my show.